Welcome back to Concept Art Demo Part 2. And right now what we're going to do is start coloring. So as you can see here, I'm just taking the pencil tool and blocking in my colors. Why I use the pencil tool instead of the brush tool, you'll see in a second. It makes it easier when you surround your area with color to just use the paint bucket. If you use the brush tool and use the paint bucket, it leaves a halo behind. But when you use the pencil, it completely fills it in solid. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna fill it in on a flats layer. Pick out our colors. Usually I use a medium color for what I want, because what we're gonna see later on is that when I add the shadows and the highlights, this color usually is the starting point, somewhere in the middle of my hue. 50% gray saturation, or unless I'm using something to make it really bounce off the page. But that's where I usually start. Again, same as we saw in the first video, use the Z key to zoom in and out. Very quick here. Yeah, doing it by section. I think I forgot to do that in the line art, so I'm going back and just finishing that. Then I'm gonna color it in. That's my Cintiq there working. Not my Cintiq, excuse me. My Intuos 4. Still dreaming of a 21-inch Cintiq. Problem is that with my Hackintosh, it only can support 2 monitors. So I'm trying to figure a way out to get a third monitor. If anyone knows a solid way to do that, I would definitely take suggestions on that. Right now, it's becoming quite difficult. I'm talking about using a USB to DVI. Some people have suggested, but I don't know how well that'll work. But I'm also considering getting the new Intuos 5. If you've seen that, that looks pretty cool. I might drop $300, $400 on a medium tablet, drawing tablet for the new Intuos 5. Sell my Intuos 4 and get that an unboxing and check that out. Maybe next week. That flesh tone looks a little orangey, but we're going to work on that. Too orangey, I think. But I think we're going to fix that. Also, too, I think I should do a video. I got Adobe Creative Suite 5.5. I think I said earlier, my CS4, which was not a purchase copy, but a demo copy for CS4, that I had a way of keeping it working without it expiring. But when I switched over to my Hackintosh, I lost that, and to get it back was proved difficult. So what I did is I bought the teacher student edition, which has been on sale at Staples for $3.29. And then I had a friend who's a teacher registered in their name, and so I now have this CS 5.5 Production Premium, which I have Illustrator, Photoshop, Premiere Pro, and Flash, not Flash, Flash Professional, and After Effects, which down the road we're gonna go dive into that and do some things, but that's a little bit of ways away yet. Like I said, I was going to change that flesh. That flesh was way too orangey. I really come to learn to love that color wheel. I gotta figure out who I got that from. I got that from somebody else. That was definitely not my creation. But I really appreciate that color wheel. I'm gonna be using that a lot. I think I'm gonna stick with it. Here I'm using the selection tool for a circle, and then I come to find out you can manipulate it and change the size and things like that under select and modify, or select and transform, which I didn't know. I saw that someone else do that, so that was a good pointer. Trying to do a gradient for the eyes. That's another way of doing it. I don't know how successful it proved to, but you know, when this is what this is all about, trying out new things, experimenting, see what other people do, see if you can incorporate it into your work. Why this long pause? I must have been doing something, taking a phone call. Okay. I'm using the pencil tool there. I have to go back to the brush tool. Now here we are starting to color. Right. So what I'm doing is I'm using a soft brush, round brush, and I have it on the same color as her flesh. I might be adjusting it to make it a little lighter, but then I have it in this brush in screen mode, and I turn the flow down to 20%. And as you can see, I'm slowly building up the highlights. Now, this is in normal, up to 50%, picking out a color. So what I'm doing is that when I do my shadows, I paint it in normal mode, and I use a shadow color on top. You know, I pick a color. When I do my highlights, I use the same color, but I do it in screen mode at 20% and build it up. Now this shadow, I'm using only 50% flow. When I do the highlights and in screen mode, I use 20% flow. And that's how I do shadows versus highlights. And as you said, like I said, it's the median color. Right now I'm going to do a gradient for a shadow. Over her stomach. Yeah. Right. Then we go back to normal 50%. Oh no, we're 20% screen mode. Pop in some highlights. Hit with some rim shadow. Rotate the canvas to get a better angle. made a correction there. I missed a little bit of space. Let's go back in there and paint it in. Now, of course, this is done. The shadow and the highlights are due on a separate layer from the flats layer. I select the color I'm using, bring it up into a new layer, and select preserve transparency so I can paint without worrying about going outside the lines at all. Here again, I have a color. I'm on screen mode, 20%. Then I start cracking in some highlights to give this piece some depth. Now this is without reference, and it probably be better to use a lot of reference. There's nothing wrong with using reference, and I'm just, so far right now, kind of lazy just not to use any. But I'm going to move forward into using reference because you just will have a better overall turnout when you use reference. Didn't have my preserve transparency on. Oh, look how that comes out. Look like it has ridges, and that's what we want to get. So we're not going to finish here. We're going to finish up in part 3. But this should give you the gist of how I do things right now. We're coming up on the last minute, but check us out next week with part 3, and we're gonna finish this up, and then hopefully move on to a new piece the week after that. I'm trying to give it some texture. I think this was a mistake. I'm gonna undo it because I didn't really like the result, but we're gonna work on that too. So I see you guys next week, and stay tuned for my next video.